Welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And a couple things I wanted to mention today. One is that part of my plan for my recovery initiatives here for the podcast for Recovery Daily is to try to be a little more active in engaging with publications and being a guest on other folks' podcasts and that kind of thing. So I've been starting off with a bang. I already got to be a guest on, I don't even know if that was this month. I think that was last month, actually. So maybe it doesn't count. But on somebody else's podcast. And then today I get to be interviewed by what is called Stroke Warrior Radio. And so I'm really excited about this. It just so happens that this individual is somebody, the one who's going to be interviewing me, the owner of the radio station, is both a stroke survivor and one that is recovering from alcohol abuse as well. So it's pretty cool. And this is the guy that I mentioned, I think last week, that he might be my first guest ever, other than my daughter, on my podcast. I think it would be interesting. So we're going to talk today, this evening, and we'll see how that conversation goes. Um, but I'm excited. He also offered to play my podcast on his radio station regularly, so that's exciting too. Lots of cool things. Another thing that I decided that I'm going to do, as I said, with reaching out to publications, is I am pitching an article on how do we relax in sobriety. And the ask is not to list things like meditation and yoga, but to talk about it from more of a philosophical standpoint. And what came to mind for me is the way that when we're young, we have this innate ability to daydream, yet it's not something that is encouraged when we're younger. And as we get older, that what used to be taking taking time and space to daydream becomes space to stress, to focus on what's wrong, what's gonna be wrong, all these what if scenarios. And so I was thinking about this article. How do we get ourselves back to that mindset of daydreaming, where daydreaming is wandering freely in your mind? It is dreaming. It's putting ourselves in a space where everything is fine. And so it was really just a fascinating concept to me. And so that's what I'm going to be pitching. And I'm kind of excited about it. We'll see. It's for a big publication. So the odds of getting accepted, this is just my I'm not good enough attitude, are maybe not that great, if as if I was wait, let me try that sentence again. They're not as great as if I were They're not as great. Sorry. I know it's irritating when I do this. The odds of me getting accepted for the article are not as great as they would be if I were a published writer. I think that's what I was trying to say. Sorry. Um, but you don't know unless you try. And I may not be a published author per se, but I have been published in a few publications so far. I do have um, I'm on year 3 of a podcast that is growing. It is growing globally, not just in the United States. So I'm going to try, and I'm going to keep trying because it's something that I enjoy. You all know that this is why I love doing this podcast. One of the many reasons is because I love to get a topic and take a journey through that topic that day. And I get to talk about it, I get to write about it, I get to share about it on social media. Um, I that just reminded me I haven't done a blog in a while on my website, so I need to do that. But it's it's through this consistency and perseverance that I have been positioned in a place where maybe I can make even more out of what's happening. So the topic in my morning meeting this morning on Thursdays, those of you who are lifetime listeners know that on Thursdays we do meditation, and we've been being exposed to this really cool um, flute playing, and I really like it. I was listening to it more last week. Uh, so that was what, instead of listening to calm, now we listen to this flute playing or other types of music. And at first I was a little leery about not having a topic, because I like to have something to think about. And I think meditation, of course, is about thinking about nothing. I'm challenging that concept in this article that I'm writing also, that relaxation does not necessarily mean that we are not thinking about anything. It's almost as if rather than thinking about nothing, which I like to try to do, but it's funneling our thinking. And so that's an additional concept that I'm going to be writing about in this article pitch. So what was I saying? Oh, so the morning meeting was meditation through music, and then we read the thought for the day, and that was about building a new life that sobriety the sobriety program isn't about quitting drinking. That is just the beginning. That's like step one, is acknowledging that we're powerless over alcohol, that we have to put down the alcohol. That's just the beginning. The rest of the sobriety program is showing me how to build a new life, um, build a new life upon my old one. It's not like I'm letting go, not letting go, but we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I'm not shutting the door on my past, but I'm using it as as the impetus for the quality of my new life. Like somebody said this morning, the guy said that who was leading the meeting, he said that the image of the meditation because there's an image that, like a video that plays while this music is playing, that it was a video of an eagle swooping down to grab a trout. And the guy said, sometimes I'm the eagle and sometimes I'm the trout in life. And somebody else gave another comparison that was similar. And it's true, that there are good days and bad days. That's just a more poetic way of saying we have good days and we have bad days. We have good seasons and bad seasons. And I don't I no longer can tell if I'm in a bad season or I've come out of my bad season. I can't tell because I feel better than I did when this whole stroke thing started, but I feel like I still have so much further to go. And I think that my seasons really are dependent upon my frame of mind and my ability to be grateful. And I keep mentioning this, that I really want to get to the point where I am grateful that I experienced my stroke, that I'm a stroke survivor. And that might sound weird. There's a guy who is in my network of stroke survivors who wrote a book um, that's entitled something similar to My Stroke is the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me. And he was challenged and eh, angrily, it sounds like, by a lot of other stroke survivors that he would claim something like that. But I believe him. His stroke happened far before my stroke happened. He actually had three strokes. Um, and this claim that the stroke is the best thing that ever happened to him, I believe him. I believe that he truly believes that, and that it has been a an introduction to this new life that he has been building. And this morning I was reminded that nothing is too small to be grateful for. It's kind of like in the first year of this podcast when I was talking about getting those stars and putting a star sticker on my mirror every time I feel hope. It's similar to that because I'm acknowledging a small shift in my frame of mind. And the same thing is continuing on today, but I feel hope on most days now. So I don't feel inclined so much to have a sticker to put on my mirror, but I still need to work really hard at being grateful for small things, being grateful for things that I never would have even paid attention to prior to my stroke. When I got sober, one of the reasons why I just adore sobriety is that over time, I started to notice things that I didn't notice before. S- it's not that I didn't see them before. It's to really stop and notice and be a part of it. So for example, I've mentioned this one before. I was on my way to work one day in early sobriety, and I stopped at a stop sign and I looked to my left up a hill, and there it was like 7 in the morning, and there was this little boy out in the front yard of his house, and he was playing. I can't, I seem to recall him playing with one of those big gigantic balls, but I'm not sure if that's what it was. But nonetheless, he was out there playing and smiling, like happy to be. And what sobriety allowed me to do, because I would have noticed that maybe when I was drinking in the morning, but what sobriety allowed me to do is really, you know what's funny? I keep wanting to say hold space for, because that's the new thing that everybody's saying, hold space for. And it's like stuck in my craw. But I'm really allowing myself to pause and finish that story for that little boy. You know, when I stopped at that stop sign and I saw the little boy playing, I smiled and then I looked both ways and then I proceeded. But that story of that little boy um, kept being told in my head. And it was like I was daydreaming, you know? It's like I was telling myself a happy ending. And that's part of this idea about how do we relax in sobriety. It's that idea of being able to change the story in our heads, um, allow things to have happy endings, create happy endings. My frame of mind is positive, and that allows me to tell myself a story about how much that little boy loves life and all the new and wonderful things that he's experiencing at that young age. I love that. I love to be able to go to the store and see somebody and pause and really acknowledge that this is another human being who's living a whole different life, that I'll never cross his path again. But what is his story? And depending on my frame of mind, I can tell myself a really sad, scary story about what I see, or I can tell myself a positive story. One of the things that I ran across on LinkedIn like 2 days ago was I've been seeing a lot of these posts about being kind, and I love them. I want to endorse that, like I want to reshare and all that stuff. And this one in particular, I reposted. I'm not a big reposter, but I reposted it because what it was talking about or showing, it was a video, and yes, I watched it, um, and probably suffered the consequences. But I mean, that's what I pick and choose what I'm gonna do now. And I watched it anyway. um it was about, you never know what somebody else is going through. So it was about like some guy driving down the road. He was an angry driver, and he's like yelling at the person in front of him, get out of the way, like move over or speed up, get out of the way. And he's like yelling at the person. And then it switches to what's actually going on in the person's life, in the car who's driving slow. And it shows that 30 minutes before that episode, he was in the hospital standing beside his dying wife, right? Okay, so that's an example. There's also an example of a woman in a parking lot of a grocery store, and she's walking by some cars, and she passes by this young woman who's getting out of a really fancy sports car. And the older woman says, nice car. And the younger woman says, yeah, isn't it? And then they go into the grocery store, do their business, and the older woman ends up behind the younger woman in the checkout line. and the younger woman is asking the checkout person if they take food stamps. The older woman behind the younger woman says, "Oh, that's just great. You're taking advantage of the government while being on food stamps and driving that sports car." And it turns out that 30 minutes prior to that, that younger woman had actually borrowed that car from a neighbor because she lost her job and wasn't able to keep her car, and so forth, and has kids and stuff like that. So it's like we never know what's happening in somebody else's life. I love that concept to keep that in mind, you know. It's along the lines of like praying for someone. If someone pisses you off, instead of being angry at them, pray for them. And that allows you to pause and think about what might be going on in their life. It's exactly that. It's the same thing. So I just love that concept. And what does that have to do with daydreaming? It's it's depending on my frame of mind, I can create a story that supports a happy ending, or I can create a story that is a a valid excuse for somebody to be behaving the way that they have, even though it might be um, n- hurtful or something like that. Why? Why are they behaving that way? Because maybe they have something that one of the most difficult life challenges that they've ever faced, they're facing right now, and this is the way that they are reacting to it. That's not giving them the excuse, but it's validating their behavior and understanding why that might be. And rather than being angry with them, pray for them. So all of this being able to relax in my own skin, being able to find a healthy place for my mind to relax is is only something that I've learned through my sobriety program. And being able to do that has allowed me to build that new life, to build that new life on top of the way that things used to be, not shutting the door on the way that things used to be. My second meeting this morning, the the topic that somebody suggested was, why do you keep coming back? What are you getting on a daily basis that keeps you coming back to this meeting? And and what I get is this is what I'm talking about. It's I'm getting and I'm getting this inner world that is beautiful, that I love to reside in. Um, when I'm bored or stressed, I'm learning how to, metaphorically put on my pajamas, sit back, pull a blanket, grab some popcorn, and just sit and let go and go through these processes that I've learned in the program for letting go. And when I can do that in a healthy way, and if it's hard, call my sponsor, call somebody in my network that I can talk about it to. Um, it allows me to be able to then have room for daydreaming, dreaming rather than stressing. So, so that's really where my head is today, and I'm gonna spend the next few days writing about how do I relax in sobriety. I think it's a really important concept, and I'm glad that if nothing else, if I don't get accepted for the pitch, it really is a a a great idea for me to expand upon. So I am going to be getting something out of this exercise of thinking through this for the article. So thanks so much for coming today and showing up for me and for yourself. Big day today. I'm getting a visit from my mom and my sister, and we're going to open some Christmas presents that have not been opened yet. I'm really excited about that. And I'm going to be making them stufflers. If you're not sure what a stuffler is, you can check out my Facebook posts and you'll see this incredible new meal called a stuffler. And I have been pushing the envelope on how to make a savory stuffler as well as some unique and creative sweet stufflers. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.